After all, why shouldn't I play another Orcish Bowmasters deck list? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we are going to be testing Orcish Bowmasters in a Mono Black shell. But we're going to do it in a little bit of an interesting shell. Let's talk about a little bit of deck building theory around new set releases real quick. So in terms of deck building theory, a lot of times what you do when a new thing releases that you think is broken is you lean as hard as you can into that thing, trying to decide how far do I push this interaction, how much synergy do I actually need before we go and walk that back to a more reasonable level and allowing just kind of the raw power of the cards to sort of carry their use, if that makes sense. So if a card is good enough for legacy standards, a lot of times it shouldn't need a lot of support. But a lot of times in testing, you start out by giving it too much support to see what it's like in that environment. Starting point for today's build came to me from Simone, who wanted to see if Phyrexian Arena was playable in Legacy, specifically when it's alongside Sheoldred the Apocalypse. So you lose a life, draw a card, gain 2 life, you end up being ahead on that life total. Well, Simone submitted this deck list, and literally about a day later, Orcish Bowmasters was spoiled, which has a similar effect. So rather than play Phyrexian Arena, which only works with Sheoldred, we're actually going to try out Howling Mine today, with the idea being that if I have Sheoldred, this gains me life. If I have Sheoldred, this loses my opponent life. If I have Orcish Bowmasters, this pings my opponent or their creatures while also amassing some orcs. And this is something that is castable on turn 1 off an Ancient Tomb if that's something that I want to do. And again, playing Howling Mine is probably taking it a step too far, but playing Phyrexian Arena is probably taking it a step too far in the first place, right? So let's kind of see how it feels to punish my opponent for drawing extra cards if I have to spend some resources giving them those extra cards in the first place. Now, today's video is brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc. as well as Moxfield.com. If you end up wanting to buy any of these cards, a promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on your order over at Cool Stuff Inc. So this is the rest of the shell that we're going to be using for our Mono Black Bowmasters Howling Mine Sheoldred monstrosity of a deck list. And one of the things that I like about this is that most of the creatures are not going to die to an opposing Orcish Bowmasters, which I think is a really big deal. And as far as playing cute stuff goes, I think I'm going to go just a little bit too deep to see how like Basilisk Collar plus Orcish Bowmasters feels. The ability to just kill any creature off an Orcish Bowmasters trigger when we're forcing our opponent to have those triggers is just so juicy that I don't think I can resist trying it. Is it good? I legitimately don't know. The answer is probably no, but it is an absolutely tantalizing thought, as Simone's build wanted to be playing Urza's Saga in the first place, but was kind of light on actual Urza's Saga targets, so I think this is pretty good. Now, I'm gonna go pretty deep into some deck building theory for just a second, so bear with me. I'm not sure that the Mono Black Helm deck needs Mono Black Helm like combo in the main deck anymore after the release of Orcish Bowmasters. I think the density of playable Mono Black cards is now high enough that you don't have to do that in game 1 scenarios if you don't want to. I think like in those 8 spots you can play something like 4 Grief, 4 Reanimate, and just kind of like go on your merry way and have a very reasonable deck. And Reanimates on Orcish Bowmasters, as we saw the other day, I don't know when exactly this video is going to release, in my black version of the shell, like it was quite good. Because the main deck is devoid of removal spells, I'm playing Sudden Edicts in the sideboard, as well as Sheoldred's Edicts, although that's mostly to answer Planeswalkers. We're going to have some Plague Engineers for opposing Bowmasters, as well as, you know, just kind of hitting the various creature types like elves or humans that we might need to hit in this format. And then we're going to play Chalice of the Void for opposing combo decks, and an Emrakul to kind of insulate us versus Painter combo, while giving us something scary to put in versus a Show and Tell deck. I think that's all I have to say here. I don't know that this is going to be the best mono black build, but this is something that intrigues me a lot. So let's battle. Let's see how this feels. Okay. This is a bit of a weird one. I can turn 1 Thoughtseize my opponent, turn 2 Urza Saga, and then play a relatively large Urza Saga game with double Urza Saga. Just completely ignoring all of the spells in my deck. I don't think I'm supposed to mulligan this one. It's even insulated versus Wasteland. It's just like not the sexy try out the new cards hand that I was maybe hoping for. Yeah, insulated from Wasteland. Am I taking the swords or am I taking this Thalia? I don't actually have that many non-creature spells, and this just dies to a Bowmasters later. I think I'm going to take the swords. I think I'm fine with that. So my opponent is just fetching, presumably just grabbing a non-basic. A Mother of Runes immediately is annoying. Did not hit Bowmasters off the top, unfortunately. This is going to be a Saga. I think I just Chrome Mox Dark Ritual right now, while it doesn't cost me anything extra to do so. Wow, I did not just get Wastelanded immediately, which I'm very surprised about. Ooh, the Bowman cometh. If I play Ancient Tomb, I can activate Urza's Saga while also playing Orcish Bowmasters, which is really strong. Yep. So there's my starting creature. All right, no attacks for my opponent. We'll go ahead and get this little fellow going. Without a follow-up removal spell here, I think I just ping their face. I will get a second Urza's Saga going here. It's gone. And I think I will just play a Chrome Mox to grow the size of my construct to a 3/3. At which point I think I'm comfortable with the attack. Alright. Good stuff. Now ooh, that's very strong here. Yep. Alright, my opponent's not trying to push any damage with their Thalia. I'll continue to bash in with this construct token. Chip damage is fine. And I am okay taking 2 to go ahead and put a Leyline into play. See what my opponent has at 3 mana. A Flicker Wisp, that's very strong. My opponent, like, legitimately just playing red-white Death and Taxes. They're not doing a very good job of damaging me. Their endgame is insane, like, that's fine, but they may end up really missing going in for some damage here with Thalia. I think at this point it could have been 6 or 8 damage. I'm a little stalled out here. Mom was like very good against what I was doing. Yep, this is fine. Leyline is not a playable card right now. I've just got to chill. Can't get past the first striker. Alright. Get a little more damage to a Flicker Wisp. It's going to be Yori into hand. It is Yori into hand. My Ancient Tomb gets ported down again. Another opposition agent. Not particularly strong right now. I'm eating 3 more in the air. My opponent can play Yorion, bounce Flicker Wisp. Oh, that's fine. I feel like the line is play Yorion, bounce Flicker Wisp out my Ancient Tomb, and then you have lethal in the air next turn. But this also probably beats me most of the time. Yeah, I'm unfortunately stuck chilling here. Note that in some other game, this Orcish Bowmaster would be absolutely obliterating this board. I am dead next turn. I don't have great outs for stopping that. I can't top deck a Helm to win. Okay, so here's the Yorion line. And it's Flicker Wisp out, Ancient Tomb. Or Flicker Wisp out, Leyline. That accomplishes roughly the same thing. This can't be tapped right now unless I have an Urborg. So I can play Howling Mine, do this, ping something my opponent protects, and I'm dead to 2 different creatures in the air. I don't have game 1 removal spells, so I unfortunately have to concede here. I have amazing sideboard tools for this matchup, though, that I can be considering. So what don't I want here? I haven't seen a Stoneforge package yet. There's presumably one in there, so Opposition Agent is probably fine. My opponent also probably has, like, Timeless Dragon and Fetch Lands. I probably don't attack their hand. Probably attack the board instead. Howling Mine is great at enabling Bowmasters. Sheoldred as a legendary creature isn't going to be great versus opposing Karakas. That said, Helm Combo is very slow here and bad against my opponent's mana denial stuff. I have to cut 5 cards, which is an awkward number for like wanting to cut the entire Leyline Helm combo. I think I probably just go down on legendary creatures and go down 1 cute card. Howling Mine to enable Bowmasters to take off is probably absolutely fine. Yeah, this is fine. I beat a Mother of Runes this time, which I did not last time. It's a very savage top deck. I throw the Bowmasters into the first Swords to Plowshares. I think so. I think that's better than Plague Engineering on the wrong type in a vacuum. This is perfectly fine for me. Ping you. Make an Orc. My opponent taps some stuff down. That's fine. Now I decide whether it's better to play Plague Engineer or Howling Mine. I think it's Plague Engineer. I think I want to threaten my opponent's permanents here and make them play something that costs mana so that I can just kill them with Helm as my actual plan. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and just throw this on human. Okay, they are not losing to Helm combo here, but they may just lose to all this onboard power, like, just as easily. A lot of it depends on whether or not they have removal spells. Who they do. I'll bring my opponent to 15, and then we'll see if this Howling Mine thing ends up being a good idea. So they draw a card. I ping them and amass some orcs. They're at 14. And, like, they have more than 7 cards in hand, so they're incentivized to play cards out. All I want them to do is not Rashad and Port me, so they die. Okay, sure. Okay. Alright, they are avoiding dying to Helm combo at all costs, which is reasonable. Alright, I'll take an extra card here. So I would be fine attacking with the token here. Hit you for 2. You are at 11. And now I can be threatening another combo kill next turn as well. A Solitude is very good. So I lose my Bowmasters combo. I think this is still fine, though. Like, the Howling Mine is just giving me more draws towards Dauthi Voidwalker and friends. But it's a little scary. Okay, so they can give me a token to remove, presumably, my Helm? We'll see. They're going to target my Helm. I think I activate this in response. A little weird if they have another Flicker Wisp and I get a creature. Okay. Did not succeed. Yep, you can port me, that's fine. Alright, cool. I probably do... I'll do this pre-combat. But I should attack with both of these. I have the double block covered already. And I would be very happy to trade bodies here. Yep, this is fine. When it takes 4, I shouldn't need to Sheoldred's Edict immediately. Although not doing so is a little weird versus Hardcast Solitude specifically. But waiting so that I have the flexibility of stopping a Batterskull Germ token, for example, could matter. Hey, speaking of. Yeah, my opponent's dead if they make that attack. Alright, why don't you sacrifice a creature token? This requires a chump block on Skyclave. Alright, Urza Saga and Plague Engineer. I shouldn't need to Plague Engineer pre-combat, and I don't need to Flicker Wisp. Let's ship in with both of those. Ooh, it is a Solitude. That takes out my Dauthi Voidwalker. My opponent now does not need to chump block. They go to 2, but then they can equip Batterskull. It's a little awkward for me, but hopefully fine at the end of the day. I continue to put this on human. Howling Mine hasn't been great in this game, as my opponent has had multiple Solitudes. They also have not played any X1 creatures, which is a vast departure from how last game looked, where every creature was an X1. Well, I've just made the wrong call with Plague Engineer every time. My opponent has played this in a way where they don't get blown out as easily by a removal spell. Batterskull comes back. We're going to port down my Urza Saga, which is annoying. Opposition Agent is a little slow here. And I'm unfortunately just passing the turn. My opponent may have turned the corner on this game as far as like early aggression goes. I can still probably combo them out later on, but I am devoid of both combo pieces, and like my opponent has some decent Yori and Blink targets. I don't think I trade for that immediately because things like Sheoldred's Edict exist. Caracas is why I've boarded out Sheoldred's. Yori into hand, that's fine. I don't think I play Opposition Agent here. I'd like to catch this land. That's fine, I guess. Another Howling Mine. I'll go ahead and make my critter. Again, Pithing Needle, Batterskull. I can get Basilisk Collar, which will become very good if I do draw a Bowmasters. I'm fine playing towards that. Do I play another Howling Mine to try to find the Bowmasters? It does so much work so quickly, but my opponent kind of gets the first use of those cards. I think I do. Alright, we're chilling. We'll see if this not being Shadowspear to give trample ends up being relevant. Alright, another basic. I might trade the illusion for the Batterskull Germ now. My opponent has a whole bunch of cards and is going to be fueled with more. Just forcing them to use that mana is fine. I guess in the face of Yorion, that doesn't make sense though. Alright, let's eat that damage. And I do get to at least attempt to snag an extra land with Opposition Agent here. Their third Solitude, which is rough. Their search will go through successfully, but this means that Yorion is not happening this turn, which is nice. Yep, that's fine. Let's draw a Bowmasters and just do disgusting things to this game, shall we? Well, there's a Helm. So much mana. If I play this out, Yorion eats it. I'm drawing 3 cards a turn. I'm okay with that. Alright, do I go ahead and equip this Construct token and bash in? It requires 2 bodies for my opponent to kill. I think I am okay with making that swing in. And apologies if we get some mower noise in the background here. It is just a chump block. And I'll go ahead and call it a turn here. See how my opponent plays this one out. They've mostly tried to avoid dying to Helm combo at all costs. I wouldn't be surprised to see Yori and Blink happening in some capacity this turn. But like moving a Batterskull to a Flicker Wisp is also just very valid as well. Alright, it begins. Surprised this isn't happening post-combat. For the Flicker, or the 3 points of damage with Flicker Wisp. Kataki is very annoying. So I'm probably about to lose a token, lose a creature, and get my Helm Skyclaved. Flicker Wisp on a token, Skyclave on this, Solitude on that. Is own and control? Own and control. So let's go ahead and Helm my opponent here. I have picked up a Stoneforge Mystic. I believe I only have 1 piece of equipment. I'll search anyway. I probably need the Howling Mines. I'm going to pay for all my stuff this turn. Okay, my opponent did not port me. They're leaving up Caracas. I cannot, for the life of me, just draw a Bowmaster to attempt to do very disgusting things to my opponent's board. Alright. I'll go ahead and play this. I'll opposition agent later at instant speed. Does my attack make sense? Probably. This token gets Flicker Wisped a decent amount of time in the next turn cycle. But this one probably doesn't make sense. Alright, so they're just going to bounce their Yorion. That's fine. And I imagine they'll pay for their old Batter Skull there. Wasteland is annoying. Germ Block doesn't make a ton of sense with this token. I think I just gain 4 life and send this card to exile, rather than let my opponent blink it at some point. Alright, and all this trigger nonsense happens again. If I lose out on a Leyline, I will just cast this for the sake of mana efficiency. I lose a token. Alright, I'm in the same boat as last time. I probably need my mana this turn. Chromox pays for itself. I'll use an Ancient Tomb to pay for both Howling Mines. Keep that. Construct is worth 5 life if I keep it. I guess I'll tap the other Ancient Tomb. And hopefully I don't just, like, draw a bunch of lands here. Like, I need some gas. I have so many good cards that I can draw. But I have just largely whiffed. Am I dead? Not technically dead, but I'm pretty close to it. I'm going to try to live one more turn. Alright, opponent pays for Batter Skull. So if they do this and attack with both of these creatures, they're insulated from an edict effect. Yeah, I will concede here. I guess I could have attacked with the construct token to guarantee my life gain and gotten one more set of draws. Yeah, that was really unfortunate. So I was literally through half my deck. I never saw a Bowmaster once I had these Howling Mines assembled. And if I do that, like with Basilisk Collar, I just instantly clear my opponent's board and like everything is just totally fine. But the Howling Mines giving my opponents free Solitudes was a definite problem. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is just the best place to host your online deck lists, and I don't think it's close. I think it's wonderfully organized, and you can have a great system of folders so that you can go through, separate your decks by whatever you want. I separate mine by format. I have just a few legacy decks, and Moxfield is able to keep track of all the decks that even someone like me makes, so please consider checking them out. Alright, I'm just going to keep a hand that can make an opposition agent on turn 1 here. And we'll see if this is good in this matchup. I have Urza Saga as a backup plan, although I probably don't really have something to imprint with a Chrome Mox here. I also think I'm probably just going to upkeep Dark Ritual opposition agent to play around Force of Negation. I just don't want my opponent to play a fetch land and pass the turn and me to have to like hold up this opposition agent forever. Okay. Faithless Looting. Ooh. We've stopped a fetch land proactively. We have stopped an Entomb as well. Very happy I played this opposition agent out at, well, not sorcery speed, but prior to my opponent being able to do cool stuff with it. The second opposition agent is not particularly strong. Is not particularly strong here. I'll just be crashing in for 3 damage. We've done some good things here in that we've managed to dodge a creature going to graveyard. We've shut off Entomb and we've shut off fetch lands. Like my opponent probably kept their hand on the strength of this Entomb, and I ruined it. Unmask, target themselves. Oh, they do have a Reanimate though, and a Sarah's Emissary. They are going to get to put a creature into play. And I'm not dead to this. Alright. They have protection from instants. They are going to kill me in 3 attack steps. I will kill them on a similar time frame. I always play Swamp. I play Chrome Mox and put Opposition Agent under it. I make a 2/2, that becomes a 3/3, that becomes a 4/4. I crash in for 7, and maybe becomes even larger than that. My opponent's relatively all in on this 7/7, and I don't know that it's enough. Yeah, this is why I played out the Chrome Mox ahead of time. Alright, goodbye Howling Mine. Are you even attacking? Alright, you are attacking. You are going to take a ton of damage on the crackback here. So this is a 2/2 now, which becomes a 3/3 immediately. Pick up Basilisk Collar, turning it into a 4/4. We'll go ahead and equip a Construct. I'll also just play out a naked Chrome Mox here. I will hit my opponent down to 2, and I believe I just fully kill them through Sarah's Emissary next turn. They opted to choose Instant to try to play around a removal spell, and then got by the creatures that were basically on board. I'm not sure if choosing creature was correct there for them. So I have Dauthi Voidwalkers and Leylines for this matchup. I also have a fairy. I can choose to play a number of edicts and chalices as well. So I guess this matchup is more what don't I want. I probably don't need to be cute with those. Generally speaking, I don't think I'm relying on Urza's Saga here. The Death Touch with Orcish Bowmasters and large creatures is technically a thing that matters, but I think I want to approach this differently. I'm not sure how many outs to creatures I want. Is this an each or a target? This is an each. Whereas Sudden Edict targets. A Sheoldred's Edict will get around the Angel on instant, but a Sudden Edict will not. Do I want Chalice on the draw? I'm not sure that I want Chalice on the draw. Maybe I do. Bowmasters is just kind of like a good hate card versus Grizzlebrand. I just don't know that I want Chalice on the draw. I'm going to play some extra Edicts on the draw that I don't think I would, and go down some number of Sheoldreds because it's just really good if my opponent thought seizes me and then reanimates that. Despite the fact that this has a Leyline, I think the rest of the hand is very bad. I'm going to go ahead and mulligan. I can find another better Leyline hand, and this is a great example of that. Opposition Agent is very slow here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. Start the game with a Leyline. I get a turn 1 Thoughtseize into turn 2 Saga or turn 2 Edict. I get to Thoughtseize away a Serenity or whatever my opponent's answer is to Leyline of the Void in all likelihood, which is just so strong. Unless their answer happens right now. Oh, they just wholly have nothing. Well, I guess if I don't have Leyline, they just turn 1 make a critter. So what do I care about the most? I can take the Dark Ritual so that they can never show and tell. I can take their Grief so they can't hardcast a creature, or I can take their Archon so show and tell isn't a thing. I don't want to keep my Sheoldred's Edict. I'm going to take their Grief. Alright. They probably unmask me here. Pitching what? Animate Dead. Alright, good stuff. I think it's fine to go ahead and just play an Urza's Saga here. Oh, I'm not sure if they just unintentionally skipped their turn or what. Or if they just stone cold had nothing. Helm is a great draw. That means that I have a kill next turn. 4th land plus Lotus Petal. Okay. Would you like to cast Show and Tell? It goes well for me. I'll go ahead and cast this. And I am just going to go the mana route with this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess I don't have to get Lotus Petal here. Although I guess I will. I want to hold this Leyline just in case everything goes wrong somehow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, let's just use Ancient Tomb. Alright, cast Helm. Let me go ahead and attack my opponent for 3. I'll activate Helm during their upkeep, I think. Okay, good stuff. So they are dead if they cannot bounce Leyline of the Void here. Yep, we have gotten the GG. Yes, you may cast your Dark Ritual. Uh-huh. I respect it. All right, and we take down that match in short order. All right. Back from a little lunch break for some more legacy action. Let's try to punch a hole in my opponent's hand. My primary plan is going to be Dauthi Voidwalker based combo this game. I can take this Emery, but the Emery has a limited shelf life for how good it's going to be. I think I'm just going to take the Thoughtcast, as that potentially finds counter spells later on in this game. And I think that matters more, because most of the time I play turn 2 Dauthi Voidwalker, turn 3 Helm, and it just needs to resolve. Like, both those cards just need to resolve, and I'm golden. All right. Opal, Petal, Bauble, Emery. Ooh, shit, it is the Painter version. We have an Emrakul on the sideboard to help out with that. They get their card, then I get to play Dauthi Voidwalker. Howling Mine not being a black card super matters here. I need Mox to be able to go and resolve Helm of Obedience next turn, unless I draw like a Soul Land or a Dark Ritual. See what my opponent has going on. Okay. Urza Saga is fine. I should outpace Grindstone most of the time. Okay, they are going to go ahead and cycle that for a draw. Notice it's not going back to graveyard now. They get their draw. Another colorless card. It's super unfortunate. My opponent has another turn to draw a counter spell for Helm now. I'll play my own Urza Saga, which is worse than my opponent's. I am not interested in playing Howling Mine at this time, because this game just comes down to whether or not I get additional mana to activate Helm versus do they find a counterspell. Yeah, it's super unfortunate that I was in any black card in these two draws just instantly wins the game. Now a decent portion of the time I just lose to Painter Grindstone next turn. Yep. So Dark Ritual, Ancient Tomb, City of Traders all still just win me the game immediately. Can't do a redraw with Dauthi Voidwalker. I need this in play. Baubles are fine. So interestingly, now any land results in me getting a kill, because Chrome Mox can now imprint any of these cards as they are blue. So I think my opponent's Painter Servant actually helps me out here. My draw is Helm of Obedience. Or sorry, my draw is Lotus Petal. Okay, cool. Oh, it was the other Bauble. It was this one. All right. So I go ahead and Chrome Mox. Oh, fuck, it has to be non-artifact, non-land. Oh, right. Not about the color. F. I am dead on board. Dauthi Voidwalker cannot change that at all. Orcish Bowmasters doesn't save me. I don't have game 1 edicts. I'm going to play this out and hope my opponent makes a mistake. Oh, they just had the counterspell as well. That's brutal. Alright, so they go ahead and make their thing. I guess there's now a Force of Will under this. I guess I hold this up. I'm not killing my opponent on damage before they kill me on damage. Maybe they mess up somewhere. Doesn't seem like it is likely to happen, though. Yeah, so there's the Grindstone and the Mill out. Counterspells didn't get involved. I think I was very unlucky to lose that one. Like, I was on so many different outs, and then I drew just running colorless cards. So Emrakul comes in. Needle probably comes in. Not sure if I want Edicts. Opposition Agent isn't particularly strong in this matchup. Probably play a few of these. Plague Engineer has some utility if my opponent is playing some things like Size specifically. I also could play Chalice on 0. Actually, maybe I should do that over the Howling Mines here. Honestly, maybe one more. Keep some Thoughtseizes to punch a hole for counterspell purposes. Okay, this hand has no access to black mana, so is an auto mulligan. It also has my Emrakul in there, which is not great. This hand is unexciting, but fine. It's quite good against an Emry start. It's fine as long as I draw more mana. In particular, an Ancient Tomb or Dark Ritual would be very good. Alright, what are we doing? Alright, there is a Painter. They technically can execute their combo as soon as next turn. I don't mind this. Go ahead and play Dauthi Voidwalker. Ancient Tomb or Dark Ritual at this point are just my best draws. Want to be able to get to 5 mana to Helm and activate if possible. I have enough mana to play Grindstone to activate. It is a Thought Cast instead. Quick rules interaction note, these are going to exile without void counters on them. That is a Dismember with the floating mana and some life. It is pretty aggressive. Opponent's playing something else as well. Or at least has the possibility of playing something else. I am going to cast a 4-drop this turn. I kind of just think it's Sheoldred with my opponent at 12 here. This dodges Force of Negation, and if my opponent has a Force of Will, I would like this to get countered and then Helm to end up sticking. This is just worth 6 points of life per turn cycle, and when my opponent is at 12, that is a very attractive number. Especially since they just like blew a Dismember, taking a Dauthi Voidwalker off the table. Right, there is the old Grindstone. We're insulated versus that. That's why we play the Emrakul. They do go for the immediate activation. And then Emrakul happens. And we get all shuffled back in. And I imagine Sheoldred makes very short work of this game from here. The Thoughtcasts and Baubles and such are maybe not uncastable, but pretty close to it at this point. Alright, we gain a little life here. Unfortunately, have not drawn another land. I'm just going to go ahead and bash in with Sheoldred here. Alright, no immediate chump block. My opponent has 2 turns worth of life left. Unless they get something like a Shadow Spear going. They have to like bounce the Sheoldred or otherwise deal with it. They can't really dismember. I guess they could dismember it. They have double Lotus Petal. Yeah, alright, that's fun. Now I have one more game here. On the draw, Thoughtseize I think becomes noticeably worse because I can't take like an Emry or a Painter or whatever immediately. I feel like I have a few too many 4-drops in the deck, even without Karns here. I think I become much more interested in Edicts for Painter when I'm on the draw. Go down 1 Chalice. I can maybe go down 1 Bowmasters. It's just really good versus the Baubles and stuff, though. Go down 1 Chalice. I think it's either 1 Chalice or 1 Sheoldred. This is a very hateful hand that does not have enough mana to operate that I'm still going to consider keeping. Because it shuts off Emry, it shuts off most artifacts, and it shuts off Grindstone in the opening hand. That's a lot. But there's just a good chance that I don't get to play Magic because I don't draw lands. I think despite how good this is, I just mulligan. I think it's too easy to die. Fuck, come on. To random stuff, keeping that hand. Like a Kappa Cannoneer or something slipping through, for example, just murders me. So we'll be going to 5. And this is an awful 5-card hand. I don't think it's worth going to 4, but this hand is just incredibly bad. Alright. Like, I am just the worst Urza Saga deck. I don't want to be playing games that look like this. Alright. No Metalcraft quite yet. I would rather play Dauthi Voidwalker on turn 1 than turn 1 Urza Saga. This just gives me a respectable clock while shutting off the graveyard for Emry purposes. My opponent didn't have a chance to play an Emry yet. Although this could just eat something like a Dismember. My opponent's chilling in end step here. I think this is a 6-life Dismember. It is a 6-life Dismember. Not cracking the bottle to attempt Bobble to attempt to keep Metalcraft. My opponent has lots of colorless mana, but that doesn't really get them anywhere. I guess they can Painter. Oh, they've got a Spell Bomb. That gives them blue mana. White mana. Karn? Yeah, I just lose to that here. They're just plussing. That feels wrong. Yeah, I'll make my only real play here. Not technically dead to Mycosynth Lattice, but I'm very close to it. Or no, I guess I am, right? Because I can't activate my lands to make an Urza Saga token. Okay, Shadow Spear is not a problem right now. It'll just be a liquid metal coating that serves as a Roshaden port, though, and it's very good. Okay. The Spell Bomb that's on board doesn't help with my situation either. But I am on some outs. We're going with the black mana instead of the Urza Saga. I can just activate this in my opponent's turn using this swamp. I don't have to pay life. Guess I will cast the Lotus Petal to make this slightly bigger. Okay, sure. Yeah, they can now crack the bauble without needing to mess up their metal craft. It's possible I just steal a win here for my opponent not knowing what they're doing. By no means should I, but it is possible that I will. Sure. Basically, I would like them to tap this Mox Opal and this Lotus Petal for something. I would like this Urza Saga Construct token to either kill Karn or deal some damage to my opponent to keep them from using Ancient Tombs as mana sources. Alright, the target has happened on Urza Saga, meaning that I am forced to go ahead and do this in response. Opponent can Spellbomb this Construct token out of play if they would like. We'll see if that's the route they go. Dark Ritual is not bad overall. So I have to attack the Karn, at which point my opponent just Spellbombs this out of play. And like lattices me or whatever. Okay. Sure. I'm a little surprised. I am being gifted so much time to do bullshit here. Like, my draws have been absolute garbage, but I should be dead by now. But we'll keep playing. I'm basically playing toward the timeout win at this point. Okay, yeah, I think that should have happened last turn. Alright, so they're going to just blow up another land. Any piece of gas here. Thank you, deck. Very cool. This cycle repeats. I lose another land. Sudden Edict is not good here. I probably have to hold this one in my hand. Or do I just let my opponent destroy that? Still just have 5 mana for my highest impact plays. Would have 5 mana the other way. Yeah, okay. I'll let my opponent destroy this. Or at least give them the option to. Saga is annoying. Yep. Sure. Yep. This is the sort of thing that my opponent could have avoided by doing basically anything else other than what they did. Oh, they have the Convoke counterspell. That is unfortunate. Alright. At this point, I am going to concede just to save my own time here. I'm not technically dead, but this Urza Saga with this many artifacts, plus me losing a land every turn is good enough to win. Alright. So this is round 4. I believe we're 1 and 2. Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, a Leyline of the Void, 3 mana, Dark Ritual 4/5. This attempts a turn 1 kill and has Urza Saga as a backup plan. So let's see what we're playing against. Memory serves, our opponent plays Show and Tell a decent amount of the time. Alright, there's some motorcycle or something going by here that I'm trying to pause through. Alright, Sheoldred is cool. Go land. Good old Chrome Mox. Imprint Leyline. Dark Ritual. Helm. Helm activate. And there's the old turn 1. My opponent will concede, so I don't get to see what deck they're on. I'm fully going to assume that they are on Show and Tell. Like, you look at their history, it's just Show and Tell, just straight down. So how do I want to fight this? The anti-cantrip stuff is good. This is fine. Chalice is shaky. I don't know that I get to feed them cards with Howling Mine, because one extra card is often going to be the deal breaker between whether or not they do their thing. I'll bring this in for sneak attack. I will play a few of these. I don't know that I want to go deeper than this. I don't know, I might need all 4. I think I will keep the Orcish Bowmasters, which can be played out earlier most of the time, and drop 2 Sheoldreds, especially when I'm on the draw. I am hoping to steal one of these 2 games. This is a turn 1 Thoughtseize into a relatively weak hand after that. I think I'm just going to mull this one. This is no turn 1 play. This hand is very good. If my opponent casts Show and Tell, I just Helm combo them in response. I think I keep this and pitch a Sheoldred. Start the game with a Leyline in play. And we'll see what my opponent can do. Unsurprisingly, it's a cantrip. Suppose a Dark Ritual is one of my better draws here. Is a Bowmasters, which I don't super see myself playing this game. So Show and Tell can happen as soon as this turn. I'm just gonna intend on playing a flash creature. I don't want Urza Saga, which is a disappearing land, to start happening yet. So is it more important to respond to the Brainstorm and amass a bunch of power? Or is it more important to Opposition Agent that land? I think Opposition Agent the land. It's just awkward in that playing either one of those out means that I lose to an Omniscience plus Emrakul. Alright, so we will go ahead and attempt this. Alright, that's a Force of Will. So I lose to the Stone Cold Nuts, but I beat a lot of medium hands now. That's 4 mana. The Show and Tell. My opponent has 2 cards. They need to be Omniscience Emrakul for me to be scared, otherwise I probably win. We'll put in Helm. Alright, it is Atraxa. My opponent's last card needs to be... like, their one unknown card needs to be another Show and Tell. Then they have Omniscience Emrakul, otherwise I beat them. Alright, there is Ancient Tomb. Lotus Petal. What was that? Exile target artifact. Okay, I mean, that's annoying. They take Fury or Emrakul. We chose Ancient Tomb, Lotus Petal, Omniscience, Fury. Both of these have flash. I'm just thinking about the Urza Saga. I think I'm just going to play out a swamp here and call that good. This is a very rough amount of damage in terms of fairly finishing this game, but I'm hoping to unfairly finish this game. So that's 5 mana to just play a Fury. I have a couple of chump blockers for next turn. I'm also just hoping to top deck another Helm, because that kills my opponent here. The Dauthi Voidwalker. I'd probably play that over Opposition Agent. This is extra insulation versus a bounce spell for the following turn. But this doesn't play around a second cast into the fire on 1 damage, 1 damage. We will block. Didn't give my archer reach. He's sneak attack. Okay. A Thoughtseize will not do it. My opponent has no cards with void counters on them. I am deterministically dead to this. Let's Thoughtseize my opponent on the way out. Take a Grizzlebrand. Again, though, no void counters because of Leyline of the Void. Well, that's super unfortunate. So I lost this one for casting my Opposition Agent. So when I'm on the play, Palace becomes slightly more interesting, but I still don't super think it's good. But if my opponent's going to be playing Fury, then some of my small creatures aren't the best. My opponent's going to play things like Fury, then more copies of this become interesting to beat Plan B. I think this is fine, but part of me wonders if I should be playing some Sheoldreds. Bowmasters is just like so scary if it comes down early, but that just hasn't happened. Leyline. This is a keep. It is a strange hand. So I believe I start on just Thoughtseize them to take a counterspell, and then I Dark Ritual Lotus Petal Opposition Agent afterwards. I believe that is my plan. 1 damage of each of 2 targets. Cast into the Fire is awkward with Pithing Needle here. I think I take Force of Will and kind of continue on my original plan. I'm just going to do this now. I know with 100% certainty that this resolves right now if I do it. My opponent currently does not have access to red mana or Cast into the Fire to get rid of this Pithing Needle. So that's a thing. Fury is a thing that could happen on my opponent's side of the battlefield without red mana getting involved. But we're kind of hoping that we just stole this game. So let's do this. I have two valid names, Grizzlebrand and Sneak Attack here. I don't need to name fetch lands. If I name Grizzlebrand, Show and Tell is significantly worse, so I think I name that. Like, I'm hoping my opponent never gets to 4 mana for the purposes of Sneak Attack. And if Grizzlebrand is a regular dude, unfortunate. My opponent naturally drew a non-fetch red source, so... Oh, is this a sorcery? No, that's an instant. Didn't go for it immediately. I'm a little surprised about. I don't know, I guess that card has other uses. Well, they've done a great job of hitting land drops without opposition agent impacting anything. I'm fine as long as I hit my second land drop, so I can hold up Sudden Edict for Grizzlebrand. I don't know, I guess if this Pithing Needle goes away, like, that's a problem. But at least I won't take the damage. They do still need the 4th mana for Sneak Attack. And they are presumably Brainstorm locked right now. Yep. Wow. That is incredibly frustrating. That Dauthi Voidwalker doesn't really do anything here. My opponent goes to 8. They activate Sneak Attack. I Sudden Edict. I probably don't get priority. Well, when they activate matters a lot. It also matters a lot whether or not they have a second creature here. For example, just doing something stupid like putting a Spirit Guide into play is scary. Yep. Alright, so am I going to get priority? Oh shit, I got priority, hell yeah. I let them go to combat though. I let them declare attackers, I think. So that a second Grizzlebrand can't swing in. The Leyline of the Void is definitely getting in the way of my Dauthi Voidwalker doing cool stuff as of right now. Drawn, I think, exceptionally poorly this league. I think I have no choice but to continue swinging. Alright, let's see what it is. Yeah, I was kind of worried about the second Grizzlebrand. And because of my Leyline, I can't just put that under Dauthi Voidwalker at end of turn when Sneak Attack gets sacrificed, which is super annoying. My opponent presumably just kills me with a Grizzlebrand, draw 7. Yep. Can even draw an additional 7 if they want. Alright, so whatever this is probably kills me. It's an Atraxa. Atraxa doesn't find another creature. Found Pyromancy. That's a wild choice. So now they get 4 more looks at a creature or another cantrip to find a creature. Right, there's a fetch. My opponent failed to find. Really? That's interesting. Okay, so they get 1 more look at trying to kill me immediately. And it seems like they found it. Okay, so Dauthi Voidwalker dies. I only take 13. I'm not technically dead. But I am in exceptionally bad shape. And they sacrifice this stuff. One of my biggest issues is now I know that they just have a Force of Will. So, like, just drawing an Ancient Tomb or whatever next turn doesn't just guarantee me a win. Alright. So there's the Sneak Attack activate, and basically anything kills me. That doesn't. But that does. Alright, I will concede. That was very frustrating. Like, do Thoughtseize take my opponent's interaction and then for them to rip 3 non-fetch lands to be able to cast a Sneak Attack while also having an answer to the Pithing Needle that allowed me to play around the situation. That's brutal. I very much felt like my decisions haven't mattered a lot playing this league. Okay. I have an opening hand that is short on mana of activating Helm, and these hands have looked pretty bad. It's also just a hand where I run into like the whole Leyline of the Void, stopping Dauthi Voidwalker from doing Dauthi Voidwalker things problem. But I don't know that I mulligan a hand that just has a random hate piece against a decent chunk of the format, followed by 6 power in play. Like, that's still fine, even accounting for the clunkiness of the rest of the hand. No play. Interesting. So are we on you're a graveyard deck, and you're just trying to get information out of me? Because if so, you concede now. Yeah, okay. So they are something that just lost to Leyline of the Void. There's something in that Dredge, Reanimator, oops, ballpark, which, depending on what exact flavor my opponent is doing, these are things that I can consider that are varying degrees of good. Assuming that we are playing against some sort of fast combo, these go out from here. Without knowing which exact thing my opponent is on, it's harder to tell. Like, the Edicts are great versus Reanimator and quite bad versus a lot of the other decks. Reanimator at least can cast like a Grief or something to attempt to win a game, whereas Dredge is basically full dead to a Leyline in game 1. I might board for Dredge. Sheoldred's slow here. I could do Plague Engineer on like whatever type Narcomoeba is to do something sometime. Like, as long as I have a Leyline or a Dauthi Voidwalker in play, like, this becomes quite good. I don't mess around with these. Maybe I want this for Dredge, though. This is just a way to stabilize later on in the game. Drop another Sheoldred for that. Actually, if I assume Dredge, Pithing Needle is not at its best. Can hit Cephalid Coliseum. So this does not produce a turn 2 Dauthi Voidwalker, so I think despite having a reasonable mix of lands and spells, this one just has to automatically be a mulligan, unfortunately. The second hand, I play Leyline. I Chrome Mox Imprint Opposition Agent and play Dauthi Voidwalker on turn 2. I probably pitch Sheoldred and just keep this as a way to get Basilisk Collar later on. This is good. And we'll see if my opponent has a way to like bounce Leyline of the Void out of play. They do not. Or at least they did not at sorcery speed, I should maybe say more accurately. I think since I'm about to play this as redundant graveyard hate, I just put the secondary Leyline under here. So that next turn I can cast an opposition agent while also doing Urza's Saga. Alright. We did Mono Black hate nonsense. We ended up 2-3 in this league, but this league was brutal. Alright, I did not feel good about this deck. I think there's a couple of factors going on there. Number one, I do legitimately think we got incredibly unlucky at many points in this league. Like, I very clearly explained what I was playing towards and why I was doing things, and then just the absolute strings of nonsense that occurred afterwards just absolutely bit me in the butt. That said, we ran into a handful of problems. Number one, Howling Mine not imprinting on Chrome Mox, I think cost me 2 different games. Number two, Howling Mine at any time where I did not have one of these cards was favoring my opponent more than me, because they get the first card with Howling Mine. So in that match versus Death and Taxes, like, I played this out having an insane number of draws that killed my opponent, and that was the case, I think, versus the Painter as well. And then I just fully just whiffed afterwards. And in those instances where you whiff, your opponent gets to pull further ahead than they already were. Like, you're willing to play this out when you're behind and you need to catch up, but it's rough given the efficiency of spells in this format to feed your opponent a bunch of extra stuff. Number two, we ran into Orcish Bowmasters against a Death and Taxes player who never drew an X1 while I had an Orcish Bowmasters, which was incredibly awkward, and we didn't get great value out of this card. And we also just kind of ran into the too many 4-drops problem while this deck as a disappearing land. We didn't, I think, run into City of Traders disappearing, but like, that is something that absolutely should have come up as well. So, in terms of playing something to intentionally support Orcish Bowmasters, I think we showed today that this came at too great of a cost. I'm not sure if I ever assembled Howling Mine plus Bowmasters. I might have done it once, and I never assembled Bowmasters plus Basilisk Collar. So, like, either the games were over before those things mattered, or I didn't have the selection to draw them. I like the fact that I don't have to play Karn in this deck list, but I don't think this is the way that I want to take this deck moving forward. I think I want to get rid of the Leyline Helm combo and be playing like Griefs and Reanimates, because like when these things can come back, that's very good. And just repeatedly in this league, I tripped over Leyline of the Void, stopping my Dauthi Voidwalker from getting me things like Grizzlebrands and whatnot that would have been outs to the situations. And like that's always been something that's been in the deck, but I really felt it in today's league. I liked the things that I had access in the sideboard, access to in the sideboard though. Like, I'm pretty happy with how this looks. Sheoldred's Edict, specifically getting rid of Planeswalkers, was something that definitely mattered throughout the league. But at the end of the day, the leagues that I enjoy the least are the leagues where I feel like my decisions don't matter a lot, and despite making some pretty good decisions, I lose anyway, and that's kind of where I was at with this deck list. And, you know, part of that was some bad draws, but I think part of that was just due to some of the clunkiness of this build in terms of like trying to turbo stuff out, but also requiring 5 mana to play Helm and activate in the same turn. And I think this exact build isn't quite there, but I will legitimately look forward to messing around with this in the not too distant future. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the deck and how it should be constructed down in the comments below. And remember, if you end up wanting to try out any of these cards for your paper magic events, Cool Stuff Inc., promo code ThrabenU, save 5% on your order. All right, folks, have a great rest of the day. See ya.